Roll Tide.
I did that.
We are live.
I've been in South Dakota most of my life, so Anyway, welcome to HerpTalk Radio. I'm Matthew, and with me, as always, we've got.
And I'm Peggy. Who likes to dive.
So, Peggy, is there anything new happened in the past 2 weeks? Because it's actually been a while since we've talked. So
2 weeks, right? Yeah, I'm getting a lot of comeback on. I posted that Freya, my Western painted clown, has started finally shedding her scoots, and oh my gosh, the color underneath those 4-year-old scoots is incredible. And I don't help my turtles shed unless they're really peeling up and there's a lot of air, so that you just go flick and they're off. Because years ago I tried to help a turtle shed its scoots a little too early, and I injured its shell, and it grew back normal. The injured area healed, but so especially on this clown, there's no way I'm going to make that mistake again. I admit my mistakes, and so everybody's like, "Well, help her shed, help her shed." No, when those scoots are ready to come off, they'll come off. And now that it's, I'm able to get the turtles out in the day, they're getting more natural sun, but our nights are still dropping down to, high 40s, 50s. They have to come in at night.
It's low 50s down here, so.
Yeah, and it's, they'll get pneumonia, and I'm not going to do that to them. So, but I'm just so excited, on my Instagram page and my Facebook page, you can see that shed, and it's like, I can't believe a turtle's that color. It's just unreal. So that's my, biggest wow of the week.
Awesome. Well, let's start with some housekeeping. Parliament Brewing, Mr. Alan Bosch sent us some beer. They're all gone. It's been too long, guys. I can't hold on to it for like 3 weeks, and sorry, that's not going to happen. But I can give you a review of the two that I got, and I definitely got that was the best beer I've ever had.
Yeah,
that's
Joel.
it. That's it. That is the best beer I have ever had. It was my style. It was perfect in the citrusy, not too hoppy. Mm-hmm. It was called Kaleidoscope. It's an IPA. It was the perfect balance for me. Mm-hmm. Best beer I've ever had.
Well, I can't taste it because I'm a celiac. I'm, maybe 10 sips of beer and I'll be having convulsions, so I can't taste it. Although, don't tell my doctor. I don't think she listens to this. I took a sip and like, oh my, and spit it out. It's like, oh my God, that's good. But I couldn't swallow it to really get the full tongue thing happening. But oh gosh, I tried the dark and it, wow, so smooth. And Joel just says that's got to be one of the best darks I've ever had. And he's gonna, and so he cheated. We were saving it for Mother's Day, and our Mother's Day celebration is tomorrow. But he cheated and opened up his two, and then his parents like, well, we hardly have wine or beer at all anymore. And I said, okay, then you have to split one can. And then you split the other can, and Joel can have the rest because he's really complaining. And so I'm anxious to see what they say. And then I think on the next, we can really talk about Ellen Bosch's Parliament beer, his family's beer.
Yeah, that was
more. Once Joel can chime in and really talk about how his mom and dad and he got to enjoy it while I sat there with my greens gluten-free.
Yeah, we should get you on and just record that. That doesn't have to be on a live or anything. You and Joel can do that on your own.
Yeah.
And that'd be fun to hear. I'm interested. Anyway, he sent 2 beers to me. Both were IPAs. One had like a Pink Floyd, the rainbow
like the
shooting
thing?
out. Yeah. I think it's called Prism, I bet you.
I'm gonna go get those cans.
That one was pretty good, but the Kaleidoscope really, really did it. I wish I could find beer like that here.
Where is it from? I feel like I've had that beer.
He's in California.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have gotten that in Alabama.
But if
It
you
just sounds really familiar.
But if you can get it shipped, if you're allowed to ship into your state, you can go and
Yeah.
Yeah. order some.
parliamentbrewing.com and order some.
Yeah.
They'll ship it right to your door.
Mhm. Yeah.
I don't know if Alabama has allowed that yet or not. We're still very evangelical here, so
Yeah.
I'll have to look into it.
You don't make your own moonshine down there anymore?
I don't, but I do know some people. I have had some.
Hey, when I'm down there, then
you need to get charcoal started. It works well for that too. So.
Oh, okay, nice. It's just gas. It's fine.
Yeah.
Anyway, other parts of housekeeping here before we get going too far. We've been gone for a while.
Yeah.
I'm fine. I'm okay. We're all okay.
We just life caught up to us.
I'm looking at moving. So we're taking a trip to Charlotte in the next week and a half. We'll be down there next weekend. So if you're in the Charlotte area, or within 3 hours, or even down to Beaufort, because I think I'm going to run down and see the THN guys, or anywhere along the way, hit me up. My plan is to stop at a handful of people's spots, and hopefully I get more than a handful, to record, look at some collections, and just talk even not reptiles or reptiles, everything. A little bit of everything, you know? Get to know the people that we've had on the show, some of them, and some that we haven't had on the show that I'd love to get on. So, yeah, if you're anywhere between South Dakota and South Carolina and you would like a stop, hit me up on HerpTalk Radio on Instagram or on the Facebook page. I think that's about it for housekeeping. I've just been super busy trying to get the house cleaned and all our stuff packed, and yeah. So I haven't had time to follow up on scheduling, which is really where this falls. So anyway.
And if anybody can tell Matthew where he should take up route within 2 hours of Charlotte, the airport there is important, write in to us and let him know where a good reptile hangouts and stores and vets are.
Yeah, we don't have a plan.
Oh.
So if you're down there, hit me up. We'll swing by. There is no plan. There's no plan. We're going down. We're going to go rent a house somewhere down there. Don't know where. We're just going to go.
Wow.
So we're going to come back, get our stuff later, but we're going to go. So
wow. I've never been that courageous in a move.
I think it's because other than reptile podcasts, I listen to a lot of like adventure motorcycle, like one guy and a bike out against the world and travels the world by himself, you know? So that's where I think that comes from. It's like, just go. Like, there's nothing stopping you. The only thing stopping you is you.
I couldn't do that. I'd have to have the house picked out. Like, no, that wouldn't work for me. That would make me insane.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm feeling pretty insane right now, if you want to know the truth.
What do you do with your snakes as you're doing this?
Yeah, that's been a part of this past week, right? I'm not as worried about the snakes because we're only going to be gone like a week and a half. So, like, fill them up with water. They're fine. The rats, though.
Oh.
Rats need more attention than like our rats require almost daily attention because she mixes the food. Like, we had smaller water bottles, so we had to get the whole rat situation set up for someone else to come in and take care of them, but then not come every single day.
Sorry, my puppy's doing something weird. Come here.
So we built some new rat bins. We just cut some like heavy duty totes from Walmart, put some 1/2-inch wire on it, mesh on it. It was nice. They work great.
I'm sure you can find someone to help take care of your rats. There might be a few.
Oh, I've got the person. I just the way it was set up before, there was no way one person was going to do that out of the goodness of their heart. By any sense, no one would do that.
Just take a few off the top.
Oh, they're not rat people or snake people. So
Okay.
Anyway, let's get to Charlie here.
Hi.
Hi, Charlie.
Hi.
This week we have Charlie from Serenity Dragons. Charlie, why don't you tell us a little bit about Serenity Dragons? Because it's not just you. There's Kayla as well.
Yeah.
And then how maybe you got into reptiles specifically. Yeah.
Okay, so we decided to start Serenity Dragons maybe 2 years ago. We haven't produced any animals yet. We started pairing our first cresteds this week. We have a couple pairs of boas we're going to put together this fall, of course. But we decided that we wanted to get into we want to breed pets for pet people. A lot of breeders out there, it's kind of this weird pyramid scheme. You breed for other breeders and you sell them $8,000 animals and you buy $8,000 animals from them, and it's this back and forth. And I was like, man, nobody really does anything for just the people that just want one really nice, hand raised, calm, handleable animal, So that's kind of the goal. The boa genetics we're trying to work with are from more dwarf localities. So we're trying to not make 8 foot, 9 foot, 12 foot, boas. So that's where that idea started. As far as me personally in reptiles, I mean, I've been catching snakes since I was 4 years old. I'm 37 now. I've always been obsessed with reptiles, National Geographic, and grew up, Crocodile Hunter was my hero growing up. True fact, he died on my 21st birthday. Ruined my 21st birthday.
That
Yeah.
would.
But then went to college, couldn't figure out what I wanted to do, and then I stumbled into nuisance wildlife control. Thanks to snakes. A guy down here owned a franchise in a nuisance wildlife company and was scared of snakes, which is a weird thing to me. Why would you do that? But anyway, he found out about me through one of my brother's friends. He needed somebody to go catch a bunch of snakes out from behind a library on a college campus, and he paid me to go catch a bunch of snakes. And I was like, you get paid to do this? Like, who gets paid to catch snakes? Like, this is insane. So that started me down that path. In the interim, I've jumped around. I worked at an alligator farm for a little while. It's a park, not really a farm. We call it a farm, but he's got 26 acres of cypress swamp. He got involved with a nuisance alligator trapper in Florida. So he's got a ton of 13-foot plus males. And I think there's a total of 600 alligators on property. So I got to do the feeding shows and play with 13-foot alligators. That was pretty interesting. And then I've been with this current company doing nuisance wildlife stuff. It'll be 11 years in June.
Wow.
Nice.
So I got my first, I guess, legit reptile when I was 15. My parents felt guilty for moving me in my sophomore year of high school and got me a corn snake. So that was my first real pet, not caught a fence lizard or, whatever. And then, went in college, worked at a pet store, ball python, leopard geckos, couple of imported monitors that didn't live because they were imported and I didn't know what I was doing as a 20-something-year-old. And then Kayla and I got together, and when she got pregnant with our son, we got rid of everything because she was still in nursing school and I was working, and we were like, how are we going to do all of this and a kid? We had one of the biggest animals we had at the time was a 4-foot Savannah monitor, and he was actually really awesome. He would take naps with you on the couch. He was just this big scaly puppy. He was
a big puppy dog, huh?
Yeah, he was really cool. He went to a really good lady here in town, and I'd occasionally see her going to Lowe's with the Savannah monitor. I doubt he's still alive now, but yeah. But anyway, so then we didn't have anything for I guess maybe 12 years until about 2019, and then some friends of ours had a baby Nicaraguan boa that was bitey and they couldn't get it to eat, and they were like, do you want it? And we were like, yeah, we've been wanting to get back into reptiles. And that was 2019, and now we have 10 cresteds, 2 halmaheras, 8 boas, gargoyle gecko, and a 2-month-old Asian water monitor.
Oh,
and a drunk purchase, I hear.
Yeah, that was 2 of the geckos. We were drinking on a Sunday, and I don't know if you know Gabby and Brett Morph Menagerie, and then AJ from AJD Reptiles. They do online gecko auctions, and we stumbled across it, and we're like, ooh! And so we bought 2 geckos. I'm actually really happy we bought them. They're really cool.
See,
Yeah,
I've been.
I like what you said. Is like don't get on an auction when you're drunk and like yeah, if I saw that the Midland painted that I'm hoping somebody will breed this really and I'm drunk, it'll be it's gonna
Well, I'm just happy we got outbid on the lychees because they went cheap, but we did not need a lychee. But we were this close to winning a lychee. We lost it by $10, but I'm just really glad that
man.
I think we did like 410. It went for like 420 or something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, I'm very glad we lost that one. We do not need a lychee right now. That's we got enough.
Well, you got Halmaheras, so your hands are pretty full with snakes at that end of the day.
Oh,
Or
well,
in that aspect.
yeah, they're we just got the female. She's right there. Well, and it turns out not a female. So we had a guaranteed male that we knew was a male, and then we went to Louisville, Kentucky last weekend. Our son does archery, and he made it to nationals in high school archery. So we went to Louisville, Kentucky for him to shoot, and there happened to be a guy on Wharf Market selling Halmaheras in Louisville, Kentucky, and said he had a female. So we met him after the archery meet and picked up this gecko and get it home 10 hours later and get it set up. And the next day I find it on the glass. So we get a really good zoom in picture of where the pores should be. And there are definitely pores, and I'm pretty sure it's male. So
cool.
Yeah, now we got the hunt for females. It'll be fun.
Yeah. Well, I really like Joanna.
Yes, that's the monitor.
Monitor.
Yes.
How did you come up with the name of Joanna for a water monitor?
You ever seen the movie Rescuers Down Under? It's a Disney movie, I think. Is it Disney? Kid in Australia, giant golden eagle, and he gets into a poacher's the bad guy, but the poacher's sidekick is this goofy goanna named Joanna. And she's like stealing eggs from the poacher and doing all this other silly stuff. And so it just kind of popped in our heads, and I was like, well, she's not a goanna, but it'll work, So.
Yeah, she's adorable. I just I loved watching her eat the eggs and
oh yeah, she is a scaly toddler. That thing runs the house already.
Yeah, she's gorgeous.
She takes up more time than everything else combined.
And why is that?
Monitors are just demanding. I mean, if you want them to be interactive, if you want them to be tame, if you want them to, not be, and you have to interact with them all the time. She eats a lot. She's very curious, so she likes to come out. And then when she's out, she doesn't want to just sit on you. She literally walks this entire room. I mean, we have to keep an eye on her because she'll try to escape and get in, the back of the house. And, but I mean, she's that confident already. Is 2 months old. I don't want to ruin that by telling her, no, you must stay in your cage, because I mean, fostering confidence and trust in a monitor, especially an Asian water monitor, I mean, that's important because she's going to get big.
How big?
If we're correct and it's a female, 5.5, 6 feet.
Oh my.
If we're wrong and it's a male, her dad is a mainland Asian water monitor. He's 7 feet, 85 pounds.
Oh.
Wow. Where will you keep her as an adult?
Yeah, that's the fun part. So down here, it does get warm enough, probably about 6-7 months out of the year if we're lucky to keep her outside. So we plan on building a big outdoor enclosure for her. The indoor enclosure is going to be something else we got to figure out down the road, because that's going to need to be, even for a 6 foot, I mean, you're talking a 12 by 8 by 6 or something. I mean, some massive thing. It's got to have a water feature in it because water monitor, and that's going to be a trick.
It's like dedicate a good chunk of your yard to it.
Well, yard time, money. I mean, that's the thing people don't realize when they buy one of these is like, she was cheap. She was captive born and bred by a friend of ours, my buddy Dan Kraft. He owns Emerald Coast Exotics in Pensacola, Florida. So she was handled twice a day since she was hatched. So when we got her, she was already super tame. But I mean, she was cheap in regards to reptiles. I mean, she was only $400, but I mean, you're talking that enclosure to build it in the house, not including the one outside. I mean, $4,000 to $6,000. I mean, not,
this is why I haven't got monitors at all. And I put in for the Fat Man contest.
I did too.
I
don't know. Bill Bradley.
But that's a Mertens.
Bill Bradley might get a phone call and just, hey, Bill, you want a Mertens for your...
Well, they're not going to give it to you unless you have 2 weeks to prove to them that you have an enclosure for it.
Yeah.
Or they won't let you have it.
Right.
but it's a Mertens water monitor, so it's only as an adult like 3 foot. So I mean, they're not as big, but they require a Peggy turtle level enclosure.
Yeah.
Because I mean, they swim after crawfish and stuff. I mean, they're aquatic hunters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well, it's what is the smallest monitor that a person can buy?
probably some of the Odatrias. A lot of them are from Australia. They're dwarf monitors. Probably like I don't know, maybe a Gilleneye or a Kimberly Rock. They get, like 18 inches as adults.
Oh, wow.
18, 20 inches. Like a good starter, I use that in quotes, monitor is like a red or yellow Ackie monitor. They're also from Australia, but they get like the size of a bearded dragon.
Oh.
Biggest problem with them is it's a lot of heat. They need like, I don't actually know. I don't have one, but probably like 135 Fahrenheit, 150 Fahrenheit, like
about
ridiculously hot basking spot.
Wow. Yeah. I'd be afraid of that.
Yeah, it's just a little scary.
You could cook meat under it.
Yeah, well, I mean, the water monitor, hers is 130, and she loves it. So
That's
I mean,
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you have for fire protections?
Well, I mean, I was talking to a friend of mine who's a contractor. I told him that I need to get with him and get some of the what are they called? The ground default outlets. So if something shorts, the outlet itself has a fuse in it, and
the whatever.
GFIs.
GFIs. There you go. Ground fault.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's I just had a few of those installed myself, and yeah.
Well, I mean, it's a thing that no one thinks about too, and all these animals is, I mean, lighting for everything, and then it's like timers are expensive. Everything's expensive. I mean, it's even if you're going to keep, I mean, most of the stuff on the shelf behind me is Cresteds, but I mean, they've all got bioactive. They're all planted. They've all got, LED grow lights on them. I mean, the whole 9 yards. So, I mean,
some of those isopods are $5 a piece.
Oh, try more than that,
20.
my friend. No, try some of them are 50 to 80.
Holy crap.
What?
I think I saw one that was even more than that.
Really?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
For pill bugs.
I think like 5 rubber duckies at the last reptile show was like $300 or something crazy.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
That's
I don't have any of those isopods. I got the cheap ones that I can put in my enclosures that I don't care if the geckos eat them. Like, no,
yeah. Yeah.
And that pyramid scheme brain comes into effect. Like, I just need 5 of these isopods. I'm sure I can get.
Some of them are actually kind of challenging to keep alive, apparently.
Yeah, I don't like bugs. This is why I don't have lizards. But
well, we've just Joel found a 1-inch jumping spider. I've never
a
1-inch jumping spider, and I mean, one was crawling, like last year on the back of our chairs, going back and forth, and he was black with white spots, and he was about 3/4 of an inch. And Joel goes, no, this one's a lot brighter. And it was just looking at me. And I'm like, did you catch it? I want to see it. He goes, well, it's hanging out on, the front stoop of the studio. And so I haven't seen it yet. But, I can't believe what those jumping spiders are for sale.
Oh, yeah. They're getting popular.
Yeah. And well,
they're cool
cute.
pets.
Adorable.
Yeah. They are super cute. And then there's the kids book, isn't there? With the jumping spider.
Oh, I don't know. Mine's 14. I haven't looked into kids' books in forever. So
oh man. See,
I've never had
we got 3 under 6. So
oof.
Yeah, little different stage over here, but
yeah, it gets harder and easier. It's weird how kids work.
No, I'm noticing that the 6-year-old is easier, but yet harder mentally harder, but easier to deal with. Much easier.
When they get into 7th or 8th grade, that's when my neighbors and my friends have said,
that's when it all went wrong for me too.
Yes, our kids listen to you and Joel better than they do us. And I go, that's because when they're on our place riding our horses and having to do chores to ride our horses, no means no, and that's it.
Yeah. Boundaries are important.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah, so I've raised more teenagers than my friends with teenagers because I took teenagers in from other households, and worked with their probation officers and such. And so, I worked with kind of like kids at risk things.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been trying to educate some of my friends, like, well, your kids haven't reached this stage yet. And
Yeah. They're
this
getting
is
close.
Yeah. But I'm too old for that now. in my
Well,
in my 40s, I could really be the extra mom, but at 66 now, it's like, no, I'm too tired for that.
well, you and Kayla would have a lot to talk about. For the first 7.5 years that she was a nurse, she was a pediatric psych nurse. So,
yeah. Ouch.
See,
she does.
It's okay that we didn't have Kayla on, because now I have an excuse to get Kayla on
There
a
you
different
go.
show.
There
And
you
that
go.
helps my scheduling problems, right? So
Well, I have a few biologists, especially, hi, John. I bet, he says he's always listening. John Marshall, who's done a lot of research in turtle biology, we can have him on. So he's really fun. He gave me a book on how to speak Southern and how to spell speaking Southern. DAWG is dog.
do you want to make a bet right now, Peggy? How long? I'll bet you that over the course of me recording these videos while being down in North Carolina, I will bet you that you will hear the change, and I will be converted into talking a little more like this, which is fine, because I kind of talk like this anyway sometimes, but
you talk like a cowboy.
Yeah, well, I don't know why South Dakota people think they're Southern, but they're not.
Well,
But we all do think we are sometimes. I don't know. Maybe it's all the country music around, and all the cows, and we are the cow country. So
this is one thing. I North and South Dakota should have been divided as West and East Dakota on the Missouri River, because on the West Dakota, all the cowboys, and they all talk like this. They're really fast, kind of Southern talk, and then on Eastern farmer territory, everybody talks like diction English, like Tom Brokaw is, and that's where I was raised. And so, but living out here in the West, some of my words come out cowboy.
See, I confuse a lot of people because my dad from Pennsylvania and my mom is from Alabama, and so I have this weird. People are like, where are you from? I'm like, Alabama. They're like, no, you're not.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you don't sound like.
Let me have some whiskey. It comes out pretty bad.
My grandpa's from Georgia, so he still has that deep Southern, like it's school, not school. Yeah. So he still got that, even though he's 90 years old. So I think I took a little bit of it.
Yeah.
So now is it reptile keeping, Matthew, why you're moving to the South with more humidity and more warmth?
No, it's Matthew keeping.
Okay.
The reptiles will be fine anywhere I live. I could live in Alaska. I got a heater for them. Matthew needs the sun.
Well,
Matthew is tired. Okay, I'm very tired of the freaking cold. Okay, we went to Missouri on a trip. It was 40s and 50s, and they were all complaining that it was cold. And I came back, and there was 6 inches of snow on the ground, and it was 18 with the wind chill factor of 0.
Yes.
So I'm done with that. I'm done. Yeah. I cannot do it anymore. I'm done with the winter. I'm done with it.
Yeah.
See, down here, I actually like the winter because it's already 92 degrees during the day here.
And
I work outside, so
I do
for me,
too.
I'm like, winter, yay!
Well, I do too, but winter is no money. Yeah. Right?
Oh.
So I work.
I don't know.
Yeah.
You guys probably slow down a little in the summer because it gets too hot, but
it's seasonal. We go through weird phases where like we're so busy we can't keep up, and then other moments we're like, where did all the raccoons go? Like, there got to be raccoons getting into houses somewhere. Why is no one calling us? But I mean, we definitely get peaks like baby seasons right now, so a lot of calls for like raccoon kits and attics and having to get that out, handle all those problems, and then the fall is like flying squirrel season from doom and bats. Dude, so many bats getting in houses.
Wow.
And right now we're up to our eyeballs in armadillos. armadillo is just destroying everybody's yards right now.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And then all the babies that
Oh yeah.
that are dropped off of the can't think of it. The white things, opossums.
Oh yeah. Well, everybody thinks that because the possum's only this big that it needs a mama, and I'm like, no, they're done at that size. Mom's done with them. She's kicked them off. Like they're good to go. And yeah.
Well, some of them that carry 12 to X amount of babies on their back, and then they run off and leave a baby this big. Then
yeah.
now what do you do?
Well, we're not a rescue, so we have a place here called the Environmental Studies Center. They'll take baby possums. There's another place in the beach in Baldwin County that takes baby animals and rehabs them.
Oh, okay, they're not snake food then.
No.
Oh,
I don't even know if a boa. Now I want to know if a boa ate a possum. Why'd you
I'll
put that in my
bet
head?
like I'll bet you.
Well, you know, I'm a wildlife biologist. You know, the whole circle of life.
Yeah. Now I'm kind of curious.
You know, like a carpet python will eat a chicken leg, so
Yeah.
like why? Yeah, I don't see why not.
I haven't had a boa turn down a meal. I see posts all the time on Facebook and boa groups like my boa hasn't eaten in 3 months. I'm like, well, you're doing something wrong. Like there shouldn't be a reason for that.
I've only had one boa, and it was a sand boa.
Oh, okay.
That thing went off food.
Mm-hmm.
It was a male though, and then it went off food more in the wintertime. But like,
Oh yeah,
like just didn't want to eat in the winter.
Yeah.
So seasonal eating.
Seasonal's fine.
Yeah, that's pretty normal.
Yeah. Wow. So what is your favorite animal in your collection, Matthew?
In
Or,
mine?
I mean, it's probably, you know, and I haven't had the.
Yeah, I mean it's for me. I mean, it's
Been a
definitely
long
gotta be
week, Peggy. It's okay.
Yeah, it's got to be Joanna. She's the most unique animal I've ever owned. Like I said, I had experience when I was much younger with wild caught imported baby water monitors and Nile monitors, and they were just bitey and scared and, you know, parasite loaded, and, you know, you couldn't get weight on them. And I mean, it was just this awful experience. And, you know, having one, like I said, that was born and bred in captivity, handled since it was born. I mean, it is a completely different, I mean, we call her the Velocidragon, but I mean, she's really like a scaly cat. I mean, just kind of that same, wants to come to you when it wants to come to you, but then wants to run around and terrorize things. And I mean, she's not, one of our dogs is 75 pounds and she jumped off the couch at the dog. I mean, the dog ran. I mean, you know,
I would too.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you say did she jump down and as if to play or bite or?
I think she wanted to jump. I think she just wanted to see what it was. Like she wasn't being aggressive. She wasn't being defensive. She was just like, what is this thing walking by the couch? Boing. And she missed, thankfully. But I don't know what the dog would have done if there was a lizard clinging to her back.
Rodeo.
Yeah. That's honestly my biggest fear. I try so hard to keep the dogs separate because I don't want any accidents.
Yeah. Yeah. With this new pup that we've got, he's a 1.5 year Australian Kelpie who wants to round up everything. And, you know, even, you know, he started doing his herding behavior with the vacuum cleaner, and it's like, okay, you know, it's training him to relax. And I'm really, you know, when I have the box turtles out, you know, it's like he doesn't get to go out there in case he can figure out a way to get into the cage and stuff. So
you just need to get some kids for your dog to herd. That's what works for mine. He's a herd dog. He takes care of the kids.
Okay.
They don't like that though.
No. Well, one thing I was really impressed, Charlie, is how you and Kayla have set up, you know, your habitats, and you know, I can see them in your background there too. That's what I like to do. I mean, that's basically why I got back into turtles. I wanted a couple aquariums, and fish bore me, and I wanted turtles in there because they just have more character. And you know, so I put 2 turtles in one tank and then 2 turtles in the other, and you know, and then it
chicken
grew.
math takes over.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, I was fine with that until I found those eggs on the highway, and then you know that clown was born, and then all of a sudden, my world opened up to more than just okay, you know, just you turtle decorations in the aquarium. Now
Yeah.
it was what the heck is this? And talking to geneticists and breeders and getting to know the turtle world and the reptile world, and like I've never done before. And so I hear what you're saying is like, yeah, let's get back into it, because like grew up a kid collecting snakes at 3, and my parents didn't like that, but I did it anyway. And they got out in the house, but
I feel
Well,
like
Go ahead.
it's the story that we all share, because I got out too, right? So, like, I think it's a common story because people go through phases and things, and that's normal. Like, your interests change and you move forward and so on and so forth. So, yeah, I think it's a pretty common story, but
Well, the breeding thing triggered for me, not from wanting to make money off of it necessarily, but like seeing some of the morphs that are available in the boa world and realizing that I'm never going to be willing to pay that kind of money for that, but I could make it. So, I was like, man, I really want a sun dragon, but I'm not paying $7,500 for a dang sun dragon. Like, I'm just not doing that. So, anyway, we actually have a female now that can make them. We just haven't found a male for her yet. But,
wow.
nice.
So anyway, yeah, that was kind of that inspiration. And then, like I said, and then we got to looking at these dwarf smaller localities and these smaller genetics like leopard boas. And then that got a little out of control. We had to put the brakes on it. We went from like 3 snakes to a bunch. And I was like, okay, we have 8 boas. We're done there for a while. And then, weirdly enough, we wound up getting 3 crested geckos from a local lady in a parking lot at Walmart at 10 o'clock at night, because she was like, it's Christmas. I have these baby crested geckos, and I'm just trying to sell them so I have some more money to buy my kids Christmas presents. And we're like, do we really want crested geckos? All right, whatever. And we went and picked them up on a whim, which is a terrible reason to buy a reptile. Do not recommend. And they were tiny. I don't even know if they were 3 grams. They were very small babies. So then we panicked, because I was like, not only have I never had a crested before, but I don't even know how to feed something that little. And so we had to do all this research, spent like all night researching how to build basically a shoebox bin enclosure for something that small. Did that, grew them up. Now they're all, I don't have the weights near me, but they're all over 20 grams now. They're doing fine.
Nice.
So yeah, but that was an adventure. So yeah, I definitely recommend do some research before you pick up an animal.
And I always say have the habitat. Once you've decided on the animal, build the habitat and then acquire the animal. And because I have a rescue turtle that I was talking to the biologist that I work with to do the releases of the rescues. And I have one that I didn't want to put back into the wild population. This was an egg rescue again, and it has a curved sternum, and I just, and she's smaller than the rest of them. And so I thought, well, do we want these genetics to go into the wild? Or maybe she'll just be eaten by something, is what I'm thinking. And she goes, oh, just, you know more about the turtles, just do what you think is best. And so I tried to find a home for her, and I said, but I have to approve the habitat, at least a 20-gallon long kind of thing, with these amenities. And then all of a sudden the takers were just gone. It's like, what did they expect to keep it in, And yeah, so I'm really picky about, to me, and I guess this is me working with kids that aren't my own, but helping parents deal with some kids that needed help. And, I tell them that if you get your kid a pet, that pet is your responsibility. It's not the child's. The child doesn't know, what are all the needs of that. You have to at least supervise, and then when there are refusals, to clean the habitat when needed, to do the feeding, to do this. I said, that's your responsibility. That's too much responsibility to put on a child when a living being is, dependent upon its care. And so I tell them, don't do that to a child, because if all of a sudden something that they do wrong, and this is from my experience as a child. I lost a couple of red ear sliders before I got it. Understood like I have to do more, but I didn't get any help from my parents. I didn't get any help from the pet store. I had
Yeah.
I had to find that adult that would help me set up, how to really do it right. And
And that's back before the information age too, when you didn't have all the information right at your fingertips.
Yeah, you could.
Well, I realized too that the older care guide books, like the Complete Guide to Iguanas, for example, it's completely wrong, and they still sell that book to this day. Like the ones you used to buy in the pet stores. That's what I went off of, and I'm sure. I mean, I realized just the other day that my brother, we had a pair of collared lizards when we were kids that my parents got us, and he had a female, I had a male, and we put them together. We didn't know any better. We didn't know what we were doing. They lived for a long time, but then the female got really fat, like super fat, and then we couldn't figure out why she was fat. And then she was fine. She was eating. Then she was just dead. And literally last month, it finally clicked in my head from when I was in middle school. It's like she was egg bound. Like, I didn't even know egg bound was a thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know why that popped in my head like I said, like last month, I was thinking about it. And I was like, oh, that's what did that.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is why, my children would love that turtle. I go, well, it's going to be your responsibility. That's the first thing I said, because, it's not a lesson. A living being is not a lesson for them to learn is the way I look at it.
And no one knows. I mean, I was buying crickets at our local pet store, and I saw this lady looking at like UV lights, and she had like a critter keeper in her hand and something else. And it's like, oh no, she's got a baby turtle. And I was like, hey, did you get a baby turtle? She was like, how'd you know? And I was like, I see what you're looking at. And she was like, no, she's like, I didn't do it. I'm picking this up for a friend on the way home from work. She bought her daughter a baby turtle from somewhere. I don't know where. And in Alabama, it's illegal to sell them under 4 inches, so who knows? But anyway, so she was trying. I was like, look, that's not even going to work for a baby. She was like, well, she's only this big, and I was like, that doesn't matter. I said, you're going to need a pump, you're going to need UV light, you're going to need heating, you're going to need a basking area, you're going to need an area for to get out of the water and walk around. I was like, you need substrate in there because they're going to go down in the bottom. And I said, and I'm not a aquatic turtle expert. I was like, you need to spend a lot of time on the internet. I was like, but I can tell you right now, if you put it in that, you're going to kill it.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh my God. She's like, she didn't know how they didn't tell her all this when she got it. And I'm like, they never do.
No.
Because you're not, that's why you got to go through a breeder, right? Because you're buying the information from the breeder. Yeah. Even if you're buying a $25 gecko, you're buying the phone call. Like, hey, I guys bought a crusted from you, Charlie. I'm having some issues. Here's what's going on. If I bought it from you, at least I can come to you and say, hey, if you have no idea what this is, then maybe we should work together and figure it out.
Well, that's what we want to do. I mean, Kayla was texting me earlier. A girl on Facebook Marketplace was selling a Exoterra, and so Kayla was like, we need another Exoterra. Wound up trading her a bunch of our bioactive stuff for the Exoterra, so we gave her like basically the entire starter kit. We gave her the dirt, the springtails, the isopods, the plants, the everything, the drainage layer. Like, we had it all in a box with directions. Like, here's how you set this up. And apparently she can't get the gecko out of its old enclosure to get it into the bioactive or something. So I think Kayla's going to go over there tomorrow to help out. But, but that's kind of the deal. I mean, you got to find mentors. You got to find people that you can talk to and sadly, there's a lot of elitism out there and people that instead of trying to help just immediately cut you down and tell you you're an idiot and you shouldn't have that animal. And, I mean, we had a guy jump our bones over Joanna being in the sink in the kitchen because she likes to go swim in the morning. And he was like, I can't believe you don't have her in a plastic bin. If you can't afford a plastic bin, then you can't have this animal. And we're like, whoa, hold up, dude. Like, it's a nice we have a big like barn size sink, and we put warm water in there. We temp gun it so it's the right temperature, and we put cork bark in there for her and rocks so she can climb, and she jumps out, runs around the counter, she eats her breakfast sometimes on the counter, and then jumps back in the water, takes her morning poop. Like, it's a whole experience for her. And
that's the other key, the morning poop, right?
Oh yeah. So I don't have to clean that water bowl.
Yeah, you don't have to clean the water bowl, right? They poop it in the bathtub or the sink, get it out.
Yeah. But I mean, again, that guy had no context other than a video of a lizard in a sink, and he just concluded that we couldn't afford a plastic bin. I'm like, what? You don't need that monitor, blah, blah, blah. And then he started calling us Alabama Hicks, and we didn't know anything.
I
And
saw that on Instagram. Yeah.
yeah, that was favorite. Yeah.
Oh,
Oh man.
So anyway, I was just like, dude, what is your deal, man?
yeah.
Well,
And
and
I don't know why, why these people have to do that way. It's like, where did civility go? Where did knowing how to have friendly debates instead of that, because when I first announced, like, okay, what do I have here, and I looked up, like, it's a clown, but I've never seen a clown like this, and I've seen red ear slider clowns, and but YouTube, you can learn about everything, like, oh, here's a bunch of Eastern painted clowns, and oh, here's a Southern painted clown on YouTube. I just saw recently a Midland painted clown, that just by Googling it and finding out it was born at a nature center pond. And so but when I first announced it out there, boy, the people said, oh, you don't know anything. You've got to sell it to me. And
Yeah.
Excuse me, guy, but I've got 2 biology degrees. I know how to look stuff up. And I know how I've been taking care of turtles my whole life. I doubt if this turtle's going to be, that much different than the painted turtles I already have. But she requires more care. She's not as genetically sound, I would say. Her growth is stunted. Her brother's grown, twice as fast as her. So I knew I'm dealing with an individual whose biochemical pathways are not as sound as the wild type. So I mean, but it's like the meanness and the assumptions and no questions asked. We just know this about you.
well, and this goes into something that I've listened to on another podcast, on the Reptile Gumbo podcast, where they got a chameleon, and they got a chameleon from a very reputable breeder that they know, that they've had on their show, and they went to the chameleon groups and they posted pictures and they're like, hey, look at my new chameleon. And they have plastic plants in there. And they got railed for the plastic plants.
Oh, yeah.
You're gonna kill your chameleon having plastic plants in there? And I guess he left a comment like, yeah, all I did was say, hey, look at my chameleon. I didn't ask for help.
Yeah.
So
oh, no.
Facebook.
Meredith, no. Sorry.
Okay. I didn't know if it was mine. So Facebook and those groups are just, it's just the loudest voice wins, and the loudest voice isn't always the best.
No, I the loudest voice, if they're obnoxious, lock.
Well, it's like Kayla's made some friends on Instagram, and when she works the 3 to 11 shift at her hospital. So if she gets home, I'm already in bed. So to unwind, she gets on these Instagram lives with some friends she's made on Instagram. And they were talking about something, and she was showing one of the boas off, and our female boas are all in 6-foot enclosures. We don't keep any adults in a rack, and I never will. And that's just the way we do things. And dude jumped her about having boas at a 6-foot enclosure because it was a waste of space and money.
Oh,
my.
Too much space.
Yeah, because adult boas only need a 4x2x2.
Oh.
I'm like, so you want me to put an almost 6 foot, a 5.5 foot animal in a 4 foot by 2 foot? No, like, I'm just not doing that. Like, no.
Yeah.
People have weird opinions, man.
Oh, man.
Well, and one of my issues with the podcast, and why I kind of took a little break, if you've made it this far and you're very interested in that, congratulations. One of the reasons is the theory of the echo chamber. The echo chamber's on Facebook, and it's just everybody reverberating the same stuff. And I felt like maybe I'm contributing in a different sense, not in the Facebook way, but in the podcast realm. So I'm going to try not to do that and be more open. But I feel like the podcast realm could become an echo chamber if we're not careful.
Some podcasts I've listened to kind of are. So,
Well, if you want controversy, hey, turn me loose.
No,
Yeah.
you're the one I want to sick on it if I do.
I grew up in the 60s, baby. I know how to make a stink.
But I don't want to be contributing to an echo chamber, whether it's a good echo chamber or not. It's still, we're complaining about an echo chamber on Facebook of bad stuff, but if we make an echo chamber of good stuff, is that just as bad?
Well, I think the echo chamber, no matter what you do when you befriend people, so say Matthew and I, we hit it off and we start messaging a lot and I come back on and we become friends. I mean, eventually then maybe another one of your friends becomes my friend because now we're talking a bunch and then you kind of form these circles. But I think the point is no matter what you do, it's hard to stay out of an echo chamber because you're always going to be attracted to like-minded people and want to spend. That's just the way we are as hairless monkeys. But the point is, like, I think like Paul of Paul's Monitors, he does a really good job. Like he has a lot of really strong opinions about things, but he's really good at talking about them and having that open conversation and not taking out the pitchfork and the torches and going after people. And, and that's kind of, I feel, the way that it needs to go. I mean, I remember a couple months ago, there was that whole blow up where, I don't remember who it was. He put out that thing about, rack systems making ball pythons brains smaller or something, and then every ball python breeder just came out of the woodwork attacking the guy and screaming on about how they live in termite mounds, and it just got ugly and it went back and forth for a couple of weeks. And I was like, well, how about we just talk about it? And
I'm really messing my whole life up over here.
Yeah, it's like wiggling everywhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, again, if there's a right and a wrong way to go about stuff, and so I mean, talking to people is great. It's when you get in these extremes, I guess, or when you become very elitist, like, well, I've been doing this. I mean, I had a guy come at me in a tree monitor group. I asked a question, said a thing, and he came at me and he's like, you've only been in this group for 30 days. And I was like, yeah, I found it 30 days ago, but I've been keeping reptiles for like 20 years, dude. Like, chill out,
I think we always have to remember we all have more to learn.
Right.
So the idea of locking yourself behind the belief is where we need to not. If that makes sense. Not lock ourselves behind a belief completely, because even though it's somewhat right, it could be wrong. Also, HerpTalk Radio keeps typing LOL in the comments, and that's not me. Oh, okay. I've been like texting anyone who has access to my devices. Like, are you on my right now? I'm freaking out, Pegs.
I was typing that at Serenity here. I don't know.
It's Kayla. She's at work watching.
Okay, yeah. Where you were so close to getting that, and I laughed. It's like, oh yeah, I know that feeling.
Oh man, I thought we got hacked. Here it's just Peggy.
No, it's just, I'm laughing. That's
Awesome.
I'm laughing, but it's
Maybe I should have the stream pulled up. I don't have the stream pulled up.
Yeah. I get involved. I have strong opinions, and I try to. I try to be diplomatic because I used to be a spokesman for game fish and parks. An information specialist, kind of thing, and how to describe the machinations of setting hunting limits and why we need another hunting limit because this population is doing this destruction, and and having to explain it's better to shoot these excess deer rather than watching them starve and get diseased and all that sort of thing, and slideshow presentations, blah blah blah, and so I always try to address controversy by trying to win the other person over to a learned consensus of what the majority of a particular population accepts, especially the scientific consensus or the game fish and park consensus, why this is happening, and explain that sort of thing. So I mean, that's how I was raised, from the time I was a freshman in college well, even before that, because we had moved around a lot as a kid, so I had to get into all these different 5 schools before I graduated from high school. So it was like, yeah, I'm a tall, geeky nerd. So, I had to learn how to communicate and survive in a variety of different schools. But, but it was, when someone comes on and the people that I have, go after are the bullies, whether it be,
Mhm.
on the playground or, on Facebook or whatever. It's like, chill, bud, uh, that kind of thing. And if you don't carry on a knowledgeable, helpful conversation, you're being blocked, period. I'm not subjecting anybody to that.
Well, I finally learned this lesson. It took me a while, but I finally learned that arguing with people on social media gets you nowhere.
Yeah.
If they have an opinion, you're not going to change it. No matter, you could pull up studies and link the study. They don't care.
Right. But
But
if their question or their debate that the reasonable people can learn something from
mhm.
that topic, even though that person is putting it forth in a very adversarial way, I will try to help the people. Like, well, they might agree with that question. They just don't agree with what's being tied to it. So I try to answer the questions as knowledgeable as I can, and then if the person just comes back with attacks, it's like, okay, block now.
It's one of my favorite pastimes, though, is going back and like reading the old forums, all the arguments about stuff. People were so passionate about it, and it's because we didn't know. But like, some of those make good reads.
Yeah.
You got to be open to learn everything. Whether it's husbandry or whether it's in my professional life when it comes to nuisance wildlife and conservation. I mean, like, things change, information changes, stuff we thought was correct isn't correct. But man, I mean, it's like once people it's almost like indoctrination. I mean, I'll tell you, the one that kills me the most, and I've dealt with it my entire life, is you can argue with people down here until you're blue in the face about cottonmouths not chasing people. They will tell you that a cottonmouth will chase you. They will tell you that their uncle, brother's cousin's nephew died while boating because he fell into a nesting ball of cottonmouths in a lake that doesn't even exist. I mean, like, you will hear some absurd stories. I had a guy, he wrote, a cottonmouth chased his bass boat for 1.5 miles down a river. I mean, and you can present to them all this, and I'm just like, I have so many thousands of videos of cottonmouths in my line of work of me walking up on them in thigh deep water, and they go away every time. Like, I just must find the defective ones. Like, I haven't found a single one that, and it's just that kind of stuff. Like I said, once they've got that idea in their head or they've heard that story enough, I mean, it's just game over. Well, and then you're talking about conservation. Like, when you try to, well, we need to cull these deer because they're going to get diseased. You can't kill the deer. Oh my God. It's about emotion at that point. It's, and I get that too. We have to do the most controversial thing we get to do is Canada geese. People get real attached to Canada geese down here, even though they don't go back to Canada anymore. They just stay here and breed and poop on everything. And you'll have a 2-acre pond that has 300 dang geese in it, and the water's going toxic. They're killing all. I mean, it's awful. And so we have to go in and remove the geese. And people are like, well, I don't understand why you have to do that. And I'm like, well, what do you want me to do with them? I'm like, you can't take them to Alaska. They have a homing instinct, the gift of flight. They'll beat you back home. I mean, what's your plan here? You want them on your property? You have a lake. You want to clip their wings and keep them there? By all means. Oh, I don't want them. Okay, well then shut up. Like, if you don't have a solution.
Yeah, and like I always said, they can go in, when you have an overpopulation like that, and they are destroying, this habitat or that. They can be killed humanely, and we do have homeless populations and the poor that can have a goose.
See, Alabama won't let us do that, and it drives me crazy.
Really?
Yep, can't do it.
Wow.
Somehow, for a little while, farmers were able to bring deprivation deer when they had to get a depredation permit because deer were eating their corn or whatever. They were able to do it, but we can't. We have to dispose of them. We're not allowed to. I don't know if it's because of our nuisance licensing. I'm not sure what it is, but that is a big no-no.
or they maybe have to be tested for disease and all that sort of stuff, and you don't
Yeah.
want that chain of instances to make that possible.
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, we are. That's strictly verboten.
Interesting. Yeah,
Alabama's weird.
I was
It
in
is. It's not the
Montgomery.
worst though. You guys
No.
aren't Mississippi. That's
Mississippi's
that's whatever you. I mean, I don't know. I've never been to any of them, so
Yeah, no, I like Alabama, Georgia. Well, Georgia's all right, but Mississippi is fine. I don't like Louisiana very much. I like to skip Louisiana and go straight to Texas.
fair enough. So, when you do a nuisance call for like a gator or even a snake, do you just remove and relocate, or is your state laws? What are your guys' state laws in Alabama?
So we're not allowed to touch alligators or black bear.
Okay.
That is Department of Wildlife, so that's game wardens only. There is a hunting season in Alabama for alligators, but black bears are just starting to migrate back down into the southern parts of the state. So they're very, very, very protected. You will go under a jail if you touch a black bear. But as far as snake stuff, yeah, we can relocate the snakes. Alabama recently outlawed the possession of eastern diamondbacks. You used to be able to own any venomous snake. You could keep it as long as it was native to the state, and they just, I think it was last year maybe, outlawed. You can't keep them anymore unless it's like a zoo situation or an environmental center where you have for education purposes. But you can relocate those. They still allow that. So the coolest encounter I ever had actually was a black pine snake. I don't know if y'all know what those are.
Yep. I would love to keep them. They're in pits.
Okay. Well, they're endangered down here, like critically. They're even protected federally, not even just at the state level down here. Man. Yeah. And I ran across one in the middle of a neighborhood. It was sitting in the road. Driving up on it, I thought it was a fat black racer because I've never seen a black pine, and I pull up and I stop because I'm going to get out, get the snake out of the road regardless. And I realize what it is. And so I was like, oh, well, this is awkward. What do I do with you? So I grabbed him, put him in a catch bag, put him in the passenger seat of my truck in the air conditioning so it wouldn't cook. And then I called my boss. The guy that owns the company I work for is a registered wildlife biologist and forester. And so he calls Department of Wildlife and they freak out. And I get a phone call from like the state office about it. And they're like, where are you at? And I'm like, sitting in the neighborhood, I found the snake. It's endangered, right? Yeah, that's why I called you. I'm like, well, you can't do that. I know. What do you want me to do with it? You want me to let it go? I'll let it go. No, don't do that. I was like, okay, well, and he just, the guy on the phone is just losing his mind. And I'm like, I know what this is. That's why we called you. Like, So eventually I was told to take it to some state biologists and it got relocated to a preservation colony where they're trying to get him to breed, which is great, out in some piece of land that no one knows where it is because it's so heavily secreted, I guess. But but that was funny. That was the coolest thing I've ever come across. But I mean, that wasn't even, I just did that. That wasn't like we're a private company, so we charge for our services. That was just, I saw this, I knew I had to get it. And that occupied about 3 hours of my day that,
made the day go by faster.
Yeah. I've encountered some of those where, well, you can't do that. And I'm like, well, I know this is an odd situation because this blue and rusty king snake is not endemic to here, and it got run over, and it's dead. But what herpetology report would you like? Where do I file it? Are you sure it's dead? Here's a picture of it. But it was in the middle of a national park, and we left it there. But it's I thought, I said, I know these aren't supposed to be here. So, so whenever Joe and I are out in the national or state parks every weekend. And so now we've been enlisted, like, well, go look at our list on the heritage species list and document everything that you see.
Nice.
That's on that list. I'm like, oh my God. I go, well, the insects, when I see this iridescent blue beetle in our yard, now that we've let our yard go wild, and we're seeing all these pollinators and stuff show up that I've never seen before. we're taking pictures of them and then going identifying them, going to the list like, oh yeah, it's on the list. It's on the rare and whatever list. So we're collecting all that. So I'm learning a lot. And here I'm a retired biologist, but I think I'm doing more field work now
Yeah,
than I did, stuck behind a desk or a lab.
that's awesome.
Yeah, I enjoy the field work better than the office work.
And the paperwork, yeah, paperwork's awful.
Yeah, although just in these rescues, matter of fact, I got to get my paperwork in before this month is up on my scientific collector's permit. And if I find any more eggs on the road, because that you're not supposed to be in possession of wildlife eggs, and this kind of thing. I have to document it now with pictures and GPS, and then then when they've hatched, and now I have to release them with a biologist present that we're going to film for public relations, fun stuff, stories. And
Nice.
so yeah, I still have to do paperwork, but it's not as, especially the federal paperwork that it's not like
we have to fill out paperwork for, we service 2 states, so we have to fill out paperwork for 2 states.
Wow. And so on everything,
That's gotta get confusing.
Everything we remove, it has to be documented, and then turned over to the state for their statistical compilation, whatever. I don't know what they do with it. It probably gets stuck in a filing cabinet and forgotten about. But.
Probably.
So how often do you come across a listed species?
It's very rare for me. I mean, the black pine's really about the epitome of it for us. I mean, we occasionally have to do like a sharp shin or a Cooper's hawk will chase a pigeon into a warehouse and can't figure out how to get back out. So we, go in with nets and try to snatch the hawk and get it outside, before it hurts itself. Occasionally
you're able to do that release immediately right then and there.
Yeah. We can take them out and release them. And then if they're injured, we can call a rehabber and take them to a rehabber. But if they're healthy, we have to let it go right there. Bats are actually surprisingly the same way. They're photo protected. If you have a bat in your kitchen and you call me and I come catch the bat, I have to walk out your front door and let it go. Like that's all I can do with it. We have a lot of run-ins with the what's a stupid thing called the Perdido beach mouse. They didn't care about it when they bulldozed all the sand dunes and put up condos, but now suddenly it's like the most important little critter on the planet, and it inhibits our ability to service our customers that are having rodent issues that are within beach mouse territories. We have to be very careful about how we employ traps or any other control methods, because we have to make sure that we're not going to accidentally hurt a beach mouse, even though there's probably not one there.
Wow.
And they get very, very upset if you don't abide by their guidelines.
Wow. Yeah, that's kind of like our the turtle that it's on the list, the Blandings turtle.
Mm-hmm.
I think the last time it's been officially reported was back in the 50s or 60s. But yet, there's one guy who does surveying of other species goes, I see them down near Yankton a number of times. I go, well, they want to declare that it's no longer, that it's extinct in the state because nobody's reported it for so long. And then, so then I go, well, call Pier, because if you're seeing them, because I had talked to Pier, like, if they want me to do an aquatic turtle rescue, I'd love to do the Blandings to get it back into its native habitat. But the large agricultural corporations, which have bought out a lot of the family farms, don't want the Blandings turtle back, because then because they want to drain all the marshes to maximize the acreage for the agriculture. And so they don't want the species there. And, which is sad. Number one, that we lost family farms. And then number two, that, they're draining a lot of our prairie potholes, which hurts migratory species and native populations.
Ducks and geese too, right? I mean.
Yeah. It's, and South Dakota, I found out, has lost more of its prairie potholes for the migratory species, greater than any other state.
That's my buddy who just said someone chased his dog.
That's awesome. That was funny.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, if you want to hear something, I do want to say something controversial while we're on the go back to the beach mouse.
Let's do it, because I'll get in on this.
I'm going to say something that it makes a lot of people angry. So for some reason, I'm not allowed to put traps down and do all this other stuff because I might hurt the beach mouse. But it is 100% legal to have an outdoor cat, and it is 100% legal to have a TNR feral cat colony. Wow. So they can have those all around there, and nobody says a word. But if I put a rat trap in the wrong place, I will have the state yelling at us. I'll get a phone call from the state biologist.
Yeah.
So I find that absurd.
Yeah. Well, see here,
it is. We don't have that big of a cat issue up here, though.
No.
I've been to Missouri, and there was like 18 running around that neighborhood, and they just come up to you when you get out of your car, and like cats just live on the streets there.
Yeah.
We have coyotes to keep that at bay. I mean,
the cat people call you about the coyotes. We got a phone call that this person had a feral cat colony in an abandoned house in a very populated neighborhood that had 114 cats. And the coyotes moved into the wooded areas of this neighborhood, and he was down to 11. So they wanted us to come kill the coyotes because the coyotes were killing the cats. And I'm like, no, man, that's nature. Like, that's a native predator taking out an invasive predator. No, that coyote's doing the Lord's work. We'll leave him there. Oh.
Well, and we had.
I'm not against cats, mind you, but
I'm
against outdoor cats,
and I will die on that hill.
That's the hill I'll die on too.
I have 2 cat babies, but I also they're both injured. They can't, they're rescue kitties. They can't make it out of our 6-foot deer fence. Mm-hmm. And then we don't feed the birds in our yard because in case they can one day jump up and get a bird, so I'm really careful about that. The cats that try to establish themselves in our barn, they don't last there long because the great horned owls and the coyotes just take them, and before we can catch them. But we do have a really good program here in the Black Hills. It's West River Spay and Neuter. They will spay a stray cat that shows up at your place for $5 so that these cat colonies don't proliferate. And, that's what we use to, if cats show up at our barn.
They do that down here. It's called TNR.
Go
ahead.
Good.
No, I was going to say it doesn't actually decrease the cat colonies because other people who aren't spaying and neutering their cats just dump their kittens into that cat colony. So it's just a perpetuating problem.
So we're going to dive down into this controversial subject because anyway, I listened to a podcast with Mike Rowe's podcast. He had on a lady somewhere in Texas where she goes out and she just collects cats, and she spays and neuters them, and then she lets them go.
Right.
Okay. So we don't have a cat problem up here, so it's not anything we can even relate to because there's not just hundreds of cats crawling the cities. But I feel like then releasing the cats isn't really helping the problem. I mean,
it depends on how.
Hopefully, but then you're going to decrease the population, but you're still causing the harm to the native environment. So I don't know how I feel about that. How do you guys feel about that? Because I listened to that episode, and I don't know how I feel.
So I don't think it works. Like I said, maybe you're. Okay, a couple of problems I have with it. One, down here it's called tip, neuter, and release. What they do is they cut the tip off the cat's ear, so it's a TNR cat.
Okay.
So it's already been neutered or spayed. Like I said, the problem is that it attracts more cats to that area. Not all those cats are going to be able to be caught. Some cats just don't go in traps. And then, like I said, then other people just drop cats that haven't been spayed or neutered off in that location. My secondary problem with it is it's not as kind to the cats as people think it is, because those cats are now outside. They're now exposed to the elements, they're exposed to dogs, they're exposed to disease. Because once you catch a cat once in a trap, unless it's an exceptionally dumb one, you're not catching it again. So it's not like you can re-up its FIV, vaccine, or you can give it a rabies shot every year, any of that kind of stuff. And so their lifespan is decreased. A lot of them wind up with mange. I mean, it's just really, the kindest thing in my opinion would be to, if you catch them, just euthanize it. I mean, there's no reason to leave this animal to suffer for 2 years, 3 years on the street and then die anyway.
Yeah,
Right. Isn't that going to be like starvation? And like at the end of the day, even if you compare your crested geckos or your boas or my pythons or my pituophis, the life they live in a box in captivity is going to be far better than any life they're living out in the wild, because they have to fight for it. Sorry, Peggy, add on to this topic.
Okay. When we've had cats show up at our barn, and we do want, like 2 up there, because they keep the chipmunks from coming in and destroying things that we have stored in the barn. And so I mean, they can wreck my art supplies, they can wreck my sculpture molds, the chipmunks. And so the cats just keep the chipmunks away. The trouble is the coyotes and the owls take the cats, and so now we don't have any cats up at the barn because the predators have removed them. And so now we're having the chipmunks move in. And so okay, now we have a chipmunk problem. And I said, well, let's get a bull snake because they know how to stay away from, the owls and the coyotes better than these cats do. And so we're thinking about wanting to find a bull snake to put there. And
what you need to do is you need to adopt a coyote.
Well, the coyote can't get in where these chipmunks are getting in, but the snakes can.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying coyotes wreak havoc on some ground-dwelling rodents.
Yeah,
given the opportunity to do so.
Yeah, and one snake that a friend of mine had when we were in 6th grade, we called her Sonia. She was like this 6-foot bull snake, the biggest bull snake either of us had ever had, and I said that's what I need, because that that will really take care of any rodents up there, and it's a natural predator going after these wild rodents. And so that's what we're thinking about doing, because I mean the coyotes here just we get cougars and bobcats and raccoons, and I mean that's why on any of my outdoor things I have to have them predator proof, especially we do
down here too. We have a lot of raccoons.
Yeah, and so one of my neighbors and here, though, in South Dakota, they have a predator-proof program that it's a bounty on raccoons and these others, and so we're having that go on.
Are they just overpopulated, or have it?
I don't see that they're overpopulated. Where they really wanted to get rid of the predators was in the pheasant nesting, in East River more so, but they've welcomed the anti-predator programs throughout the state, and then and so then they remove the predators, and then the rodent population just we're just seeing that here. We're not seeing the coyotes that we used to see, and now our rodent population is exploding. So yeah, I mean it's and a lot of biologists have really been complaining about the program. It's so arbitrary. And they're not following a census to realize that, okay, we have too many coyotes. They're killing the pronghorn, and deer fawns. Let's take the coyote population down because we're finding this imbalance. It's just let's just kill them, because why not?
We get that attitude down here too. If it preys on something that I want to hunt, I'm going to kill that thing. That's the attitude. Every raccoon, opossum, red fox, gray fox, coyote, it's all got to go, because there's a chance it might eat a turkey poult that I might want to shoot in 4 years.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so so now we're at this issue of, what are we going to do for our barn? And, I just go, snakes. Let's get some snakes.
That's what I'd do.
Yeah. So that's
every single person in my area that posted, like, we don't have bull snakes down here, but our equivalent would be like the gray rat snakes or corn snakes. And I just be like, oh, you need that removed? Yeah, I'll go get it for free. I'm just going to put it in my barn. And I just start stockpiling my barn with rat snakes until a couple of them decided to stay.
Heck yeah.
That would be my plan.
Yeah.
Well, you got the black pines. You could stalk the black pines.
I don't want those on my property because then they'd probably come and tell me I have to move. They'd be like, "Oh, you can't live here anymore."
Now you're done. This is government property now. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't
Oh.
The bush puppy would handle it.
That wasn't me. That's Peggy.
That's me that did that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm trying
Peggy's learning how to control the stream over here.
I just
Nice.
it said new comments, and I wasn't able to see the new comments. So I go, well, show the new comments, and it popped up over here.
I did send one in the private chat. That might.
I saw
be
that.
No.
Yeah.
Oh.
Like when I left, just that I'd be back.
Oh.
Anyway. So what are you? I know that you guys are just getting started breeding and your stuff is coming up to age, but what's coming up? You got the crested geckos paired, which is very interesting.
Mm-hmm. We got one pair. He's see, I don't know, the crested gecko genetics confuse me because it's polygenic, and then I come to find out that a lot of these morphs, they're not morphs, they're just line bred characteristics with, like tricolor is not a true, it's not a, what I consider, I come from like the boa world. So, it's just a gecko that has 3 different colors on it. And then people breed these geckos to make it so that when you breed a pair together, you get a lot more of these geckos instead of, random colors that you don't want. It's a lot of line, that's not true, even true line breeding. It's a lot of selective breeding. But yeah, they're I think they're phantoms, so they're both reverse pinstripes and they're blush throats. I don't know what any of that means, but their genetics match, so we're putting them together to see what the heck happens. The boas I've actually done research on, so those pairings are actually planned. So
all right, hang on, what what island locality, I guess, because it's not dwarf species. What island localities of boas are you working with here?
So we've got 3 boas that have a lot of Nicaraguan blood in them. One of ours is a full female Nicaraguan, but she's just a bow. Sorry, dogs decided they were going to play it directly behind me.
Oh, you're it's a long podcast. There's bound to be stuff happening. I got a baby crying back there. I'm just trying to keep talking over it.
Don't hear.
So then we have leopard genes, which are from the Sonoran line. So that's a true dwarf locale. Now, how much of that's actually leopard, I don't know, because the 2 boas we've got, they're hypo, and then they're het for leopard, and then they're also possibly het for calalbinism and anery type 1. Okay. We'll see if those other 2 genes prove out. If they do, it'd be a really cool snake. We could get some leopard moon glows, which would be sweet.
So you're working with more like Central American boas, not specifically like Pearl Island or Hog Island. Like
we haven't gotten that far yet. I'd love to get some Tarahumara mountain boas. I love those things so much. I think they're really cool looking. We haven't gotten that far yet.
Okay. Awesome.
So now on your genetics that you have espoused in having, is it you know this because it's showing that genetics, or you've had I noticed that you guys in the snake world, you do a lot of genetics testing and can find out exactly what het genes are there, if they are recessive. These blood tests do show that it is there if you're going to spend X amount of thousands of dollars on a particular line. So are you doing that type of verification?
It's not available for boas yet. It's available for a lot of colubrids, and then they're starting to do a lot of the testing in ball pythons. But what's the company doing that? I can't remember, but
I can tell you Ben Morrell. I can give you the guy's name.
Yeah,
I cannot give you his company.
Only reason I know this is I watched a snake discovery video where she went and interviewed him, and he said something about the way that boa DNA is. It's harder to read the genetic. I don't know. I'm not that smart. I'm not that level.
They do pull it out of a shed, not out of blood.
Yes, correct.
It's out of a shed. Just the shed skin, Peggy.
Yep.
Oh, okay. See, I learned something new.
So in the boa world, you have to basically trust the breeder. Okay. Some stuff is, if it's a visual of a recessive, so like say, albino, obviously that snake's albino. Some of the codoms are like jungle and hypo and motley. Some of those are easier to see. than others. I personally have a hard time recognizing jungle. But like I said, when it comes to the hets, you just kind of, if you ask the breeder to send you pictures of the parents, or if you like, luckily a lot of our snakes came from somebody we know and trust. So, so we trust that he gave us what he said he gave us. But like, how do you know if a snake's het albino? You have no way to know. You can't tell. It has no outward markings. People say that if it's het for the blood gene, that the snake will be more red. I don't know if that's true. They say snakes that are het for the leopard gene will have more spots than normal. I don't know if that's true.
They say snakes that are het for pied tend to be missing some color somewhere.
Yeah. See, I don't know if that's true.
And we don't know if that's actually a truth. But there should technically, there should be some sort of marker, even for a recessive.
Vin Russo,
by the way, I understand after listening for,
that's
to a lot of podcasts.
Yeah, I used to be a horse breeder and studied the equine color genetics. And, if it's got a recessive gene, you do not see it at all. I mean, it's just, it's, yeah.
I wonder how similar, like, the horse genetics are to snake genetics. Because, like, I've been breeding the rats, and this is where I can talk about genetics. Because I took 2 rats, and I have gotten them to F3 at this point. So I know what's all in there. I have had numerous colors pop out. It's wonderful. And magic, actually. I'm glad I'm making babies. That's what I want to do. I want to make babies.
I've never said that.
Yeah, no. I got 3 kids. You got 0.
I was about to say, you've got 3. You're a proven breeder. You're good.
Yeah, no. I just want to make babies. So anyway, in rat genetics, it's different than how we describe snake genetics as well, because there's more actual dominance, and what we perceive in the snake world as co-dominant isn't technically co-dominant either.
Nope.
I mean, we can call Dr. Wyman back on if you want.
Yeah.
Pegs. Actually, if we're gonna dive deep into deep into genetics, we might as well. But yeah, what we call codominant isn't quite the same. And I think rats are more similar to the horses, i.e. like I can pop out a black and a brown rat, and those are both dominant genes. So,
well, that's like if you breed 2 mutts together, if you don't know what they're, you found 2 puppies on the side of the road, and you grew them up and you bred them together, and you could have some that look like Chihuahuas and some that look like Great Danes. Like you have and you might get that out of the same litter. I mean, because it just depends on what genes line up. And that's kind of how I feel when it comes to the gecko stuff. Is it's all these. I was listening to a podcast on gargoyle geckos the other day, and the guy was talking about trying to breed for red line gargoyles, and how you might have a red line male and a red line female and breed them together, and then you get a bunch of spots and not a single line anywhere. And I'm like, how does that work? So I mean, it's kind of that same deal like you're saying with the horses. You just you don't know, and so that's where the lineages come from in the gecko world. That's why you see like on a gecko podcast where they're talking about well, this is Snowflake's great grandson or something, because like Snowflake was this awesome gecko that produced a ton of like white babies with reliability and no other crazy polygenics thrown in there. And but when you're new to the gecko world like we are, and we're trying to learn, and you listen to these old school gecko people and they're talking about genetics in the terms of lineage, you're just like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah. So and I was talking to a guy in the turtle world that's done a lot of breeding just today, and he wanted to send a male to breed to my she's female still. I have another well, anyway, he wanted to send a male, and I said, well, she's too small, and I don't want to breed her to an albino male. I want to breed her to a clown. And I know that the way I've been understanding this clown gene is my Western painted clown may have the mutation on just say gene A. And if I find a particular Eastern painted clown, his mutation or limitation of the color expression may be on a different gene site. So it's almost like I'm dealing with two recessives that if I put them together, I'll still get nothing but hits because I'm not dealing with the same gene site. I'm not putting together two recessive genes on the same gene site, so they won't act as if
Yeah, they're
And
non-allelic or allelic.
right.
There's a genetic combination in the boa world, and I'm going to get it wrong, but I think it's called a paradigm boa, and it's boa woman caramel albinism and some other kind of albinism. I can't remember, but they're allelic albinos, and when you put them together, even though they're two separate genes, it makes an albino boa that looks different than either of those if you just have the double recessives.
Okay.
But they're playing with that, which is they found allelic albinos or non-allelic that work together to create a morph.
Oh, interesting.
Mhm.
No, see that, and that's what
isn't
I
that candy and ball pythons? Isn't that similar? I think so. I'll say I think so. If
I
I'm
never
wrong,
got
let
into
me
ball.
know.
I never got into ball pythons, and when I tried to understand ball python genetics, and they're talking like it's a gravel road ice cream cone, blah blah blah. I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
See, I got in right at that, like before before Brian Barczyk got Scaleless
Oh,
Head, like,
where
but
does Calico?
so I got in like right at that early time.
Yeah,
I don't know. It wasn't super early, but it was that 2008 to 2014.
mm-hmm.
So where scaleless just became a thing, and then the scaleless ball python could be a thing, and yeah, I don't know. I've got a scaleless corn snake, and I think my corn snakes are gonna go because I'm just not into them.
Scaleless ball python gene didn't it have some kind of fatal problem?
I don't know.
I can't remember.
They didn't know how to keep them alive. That's for sure.
Oh, okay. They couldn't keep them alive. Okay,
And they figured it out. They've got it now, but
okay.
I'm sure that there was some sort of non-humidity issue, or
I mean,
I
an
don't
animal
know.
designed to have scales seems like taking away the scales would definitely be a problem.
Yeah, that's kind of how I'm feeling about my
that's
own
how I
corn
think
snake.
about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've just now
always-
we've just ticked off a bunch of scaleless breeders.
the scaleless thing is so highly debated too, because like you said, an animal with scales should have them. But like I've
Well-
always like wanted that, so I got my scaleless corn snake. Unfortunately, I got a scaleless corn snake, and I don't think I'm the biggest corn snake fan.
Yeah.
We'll see when they get a little bigger. I'm gonna give it more time, but
I mean, if it's able to stay alive and able to be healthy in captivity and do all normal ball python or corn snake stuff, I mean, that's fine. I think my only problem would be if they started getting this. If you have a scaleless and it goes all the way to where it doesn't have belly scales, I don't know how they'd locomote at that point.
Yeah.
That's the ball python, and they still locomote. So I don't like
that's weird.
The corn snake. Like I can grab it, but my corn snake.
Yeah, I've seen corn snakes.
It's got the scales on the bottom, but not on the body.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
But I mean, whether it's ball pythons, everybody had that fit about the spider gene a while back, and in boas, the equivalent gene is scoria.
Okay.
It causes wobble, and the super form is terrible. Like, don't do it.
They're like jags and carpets. I'm a carpet guy. I haven't.
I like carpets.
I haven't announced it, but I did pick up 6 snakes. I picked up 6 snakes from Jacob Bratz. I have got me 2 San Diego gopher snakes. Bull
Cool.
Snakes.
Yes.
Yeah, one's a triple het. The other's full visual on the triple.
Cool.
So I like the normal look, but
Send me pics.
yeah, I will. And then I picked up 4 IJs.
What are they?
Irian Jayas, Poplin carpets.
Mm-hmm.
The northernmost reach of the carpet python range.
So, do you have a preference as far as like coastal Darwin carpets?
I've never dealt with them, so I can't say. I have always just dreamed of them. Actually, my mic, every time I record, sits on the more complete carpet python because it's thick enough to raise my mic up high enough.
I have the more complete boa constrictor.
So I love carpet pythons. My daughter's name is Morelia. Like,
oh,
this is
awesome.
how much I love carpet pythons. I've never owned one.
awesome.
I picked up my first 4. They're all.
Well, congrats, man.
They're all.
That's a cool name.
They're all about 2019, if I'm remembering correctly. So they'll be ready to go not this coming season, but next season. And they're all F1 or wild caught, which is. I love the F1 thing. I love the, let's breed genetics to genetics and see what comes. And I'm not even looking for anything super special. Let's just, like, this is F1 of my line on 2 animals. So one was produced by Riley Jiminson.
Okay, I don't know who that is.
Yeah, he's on YouTube. The other was produced by Jake. One was wild caught. I don't know. I can't remember. I'd have to look where the other one came from. But it's pretty much Jake's original F1 group that he had. Jake Bratz. THN.
Oh, yeah, okay. He had THN.
Yeah. So I picked those up from him. So
that is awesome,
I'm gonna go visit him when we go down to North Carolina. We're gonna end down in Beaufort, meet the THN guys.
You gonna have a cigar?
I'm gonna have a cigar.
I've
only had like 3 in my life, so I hope
you can't go hang out with Smitty without having a cigar.
Smitty, if you're listening to this, you better be bringing a cigar, because I will smoke. I've got no problem smoking. Anyway.
My older brother died of lung cancer, so I just don't do it.
I used to smoke cigarettes. I don't anymore. I vape. So
you're still getting metal in your lungs.
I'm still getting something in my lungs, but I feel better than I did when I smoked cigarettes.
Yeah.
So
it's horrible.
That's all that matters.
It's horrible watching somebody drown in their own blood. So don't do it.
That's not child friendly, Peggy.
Hey, it is child friendly. Keeping kids from taking that first cigarette in 5th grade.
No, don't do that. Don't smoke. Don't vape. It's all bad. I do it live. I shouldn't even vape live on camera. I should kick myself off of the stream every time I hit my vape. But guess what? Sorry. At least I'm not smoking cigarettes.
You got your carpets, and I finally got a water monitor. I've wanted one since I was like 14.
But I'd go for a water monitor.
The beauty of being an adult.
Yeah. I don't know. If you gave me the choice between a monitor, like a water monitor like that, or like a Cayman, like a small Cayman, I'd take the Cayman. I'd take the dwarf Cayman.
I want a Cayman. I'm not committing to that. That's too much.
But you're already so committed with the damn water monitor.
Yeah, but that's no. I'm not I'm not building a 12-foot pond in my backyard.
But it's only going to use the pond.
That's true.
It does need a spot to come out and bask. Let's get real. But it's only going to use the pond.
But
and
the good thing is,
if you train it good enough, you can go just swim in the pond with it, and it can be like a swimming pond. Oh man,
I get nervous enough with the monitor lizards, and I've worked around animals too much, and no matter how much you know something, when an animal's that big, I watch these guys on Instagram swimming with their alligators, and I'm like, oh, that's awesome, but man, it just takes one time.
Right. It does. You're right.
And that's I'm gonna make people mad again. Right. The free handling, the venomous stuff. Again, it's I don't care. I don't personally have an opinion on it. If you want to do you. But I'm just man, if all it takes is one bad day.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. Here's where I stand on that.
I'm too cautious.
I'm too cautious because a horse, that loves you and comes running and bucking and wanting to and play and buck and kick, and then the hoof comes this close to your head that he could have killed you because he's joyous, and even though you've trained him, you don't run up to me and you don't get in my space and all this stuff when they are having their buck romping around.
Horses with the zoomies are terrifying.
Horses
Exactly.
scare me in general.
Oh, I
My
love
sister
horses.
looked at me the other day and was like, I want horses. I'm like, I would rather work with a black mamba than a horse. And here's why.
I sold on my horses. I just got no, they're just a lot of work, a lot of expense, and dangerous. It's not like if you're going to fall off, it's when and how bad is that fall going to be.
It's not if that thing's gonna kick you, it's when it's gonna kick you.
Yeah.
That's and I guess you can say the same about a venomous snake, but if you had a black mamba and you had the right cage, you're never gonna even interact with that snake.
Painted turtles.
Well, yeah, painted turtles are great, Peggy. Yeah. I do not have one, but
I have been, even though we can, like I said, I can only have native venomous here in Alabama, but I have been, I'm not allowed no hots in the house. I've been informed. So I can't even have a little baby cottonmouth. It's just not allowed.
Oh man. Well, I don't know.
I don't need one.
Yeah, no.
I play with them enough at work. I don't need any at home.
Yeah.
I've thought about doing like a venomous, more like a zoo type thing.
Ew.
Where you can come in, there's venomous there, but then the zoo does outreach as well, to where the venomous don't go, and you do an educational program. But I don't know. I would like to work with venomous.
I have done some talks at we have a school here called Alabama School of Math and Science, and I've done some talks for their field biology camp a couple of times, and I've actually taken cottonmouth and an eastern diamondback to do that talk in that lab, but I had them in vision cages with locks, and
they weren't getting
they were secure.
I would never want to do it. But
I mean, they make snake hooks and stuff for a reason. As long as you use your tools properly and you don't get overconfident, know your limits. But yeah, I mean, venomous stuff is not for not for any beginner or anybody who doesn't know what they're doing. Like, you definitely need to get some time and some hands-on and know what you're doing, know how to read the body language of snakes. And I mean, who is it? Who's the other guy? Not Smitty, the other gentleman that's on Snakes
Phil?
and Stogies.
We've
Phil.
had Phil on about a venomous episode.
Okay, well he said the best venomous snake is someone else's.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
100%. The best one to learn on is someone else's.
He said he's the best venomous snake is someone else's. I was like, that is very intelligent. Yeah,
I don't
move them off the road so they don't get run over, and then it's like kiss them goodbye.
Yeah.
We just have the rattlers here, and we have immediate neighbors that are really deathly afraid of any kind of snake. So we go over there and remove the non-venomous, and indoors I don't feel comfortable enough with to remove I'd wait for Joel to come home to do it, because he used to work at Reptile Gardens, and he's comfortable with the hooks and the periscoping camera tripods that reach out 6 feet. He's got a lot of snake venom on one of his favorite tripods.
Tongs.com, Peggy. Tongs.com.
Yeah. I got very close to getting envenomated, the closest I've ever come getting a cottonmouth out of the road. The whole reason I was even interacting with it was to get it off the road. And he spun on me. He was a little juvenile, so he was the worst size, that like 1 foot range where they're just whippy and crazy. And he came right across here, and I left a red line in venom but didn't break the skin.
Oh man.
Yeah, I was very mad at him. I was like, you ungrateful little jerk. I was like, I'm saving your life, and you're gonna respond by trying to kill me.
How long was your hook?
It was a 4 foot. The problem was I had to tail him to get him out of the road. He started wiggling everywhere and flopping on the road, and I was trying to move him before anybody hit my truck or anybody ran me or him over. And so I tailed him, and I just wasn't ready for it, and he spun, and I wasn't fully focused.
Yeah.
So
those dumb moments.
Let's start with let's coin that. You tailed the snake.
Mm-hmm.
You got close enough to touch it.
Mm-hmm.
That right there if you do not want to get bit by a venomous snake, period.
Yeah.
If you just keep it far enough away to not bite you, you're fine. Like if you've got a stick to keep it away, you're fine. It's not gonna.
I shouldn't have even tailed it. It was too small of a cottonmouth.
When you have to grab a snake that's struck a
yeah. We've got that story on here.
What?
Oh, I'll do it quickly. One of my Forest Service transect partners, he got caught, a snake reared up, and he didn't even know it was there. Got snagged on his jeans right at about the knee. And this guy was afraid of garter snakes, and so we had to hold him still, and nobody wanted to grab the snake off him, and so I never handled a snake before, but I knew how. I watched enough milking videos, so I grabbed the snake's head that way, and then grabbed his body so it couldn't wrap on me, and then I tossed it, just took it off his leg like that, and then tossed it, and I said, roll up your jeans, and before he rolled up his jeans, he pantsed himself. I was like, check me over. Yeah, right.
Oh man.
And so that's when I handled a venomous snake to basically
keep it from getting that guy.
Yeah. And that's the last time. That was
first and last.
Yeah, that was back in 1978. So it's been a while. So yeah. I don't like them. And that was an experience that told me, never again.
You don't like them, but you think they should live, so that's okay. I don't like bees, but I don't go around killing them.
Yeah, well, I think at the elevation that we're at, hopefully, we're up.
Well, you, not me.
Yeah, I think we're high enough to not have the rattlers here, but who knows? If I get the bull snakes, they usually keep away they eat the rattlers. And that's another reason why I want a bull snake. A catch.
Well, when I make some, I'll just send them to you.
Yeah.
They're ready to go. I'll just send them right out of the egg. Well, I'll make sure they eat once, but
yeah. No, I want one. It's 4 or 5 feet.
Well, Peggy, I really kind of wanted to talk about crested geckos.
Yeah.
And like how you go into that, but we're like running out of time, and it's late. So, do you have any more questions, Peggy? Because
I like questions.
You have any final questions?
I always have lizard questions because I've never had a lizard kept.
No, we went into some controversial topics that we kind of all agree on, so that's fine. We didn't talk about geckos, but we talked about herpticulture. That's what matters. Yes.
Well, and I need to go and explore, your lizard world there, Charlie. And
I will say this about crested geckos: I think the entire species shares 2 brain cells. They are adorable, but they're some of the dumbest things I've ever had the pleasure of messing with. They are hilarious.
I've heard that. I've heard a lot of people wonder how they've almost been extirpated. We brought them back, but people wonder how they're like, why we even brought them back, because they're that dumb.
Okay, well, give me a for instance, because now I'm really intrigued.
So I have heard multiple stories, and we had this problem actually with one of our geckos. If you upgrade them to too large of an enclosure, they won't be able to find the food.
Wow.
So it doesn't always happen, but it happens. And so you have to downsize like an adult animal from what I would consider an adult enclosure, like an 18 by 18 by 24 Exoterra, down to like a 12 by 12 by 18. Because they can't find their food, they start losing weight. We weight check all of ours every 10 days. So we put them all on a scale, get the gram weight, make sure that they're all maintaining, a little bit of fluctuation's fine, and that all the juveniles are going up and not down. But yeah, we had one that for whatever reason, he jumped. I think he hit the floor weird. They are jumpy as babies, and you have to be very careful because they don't do well with long falls. we think he kind of knocked himself a little loopy, and he started losing weight, got neurological, and so we had to isolate him, put him back in his tiny little baby bin, and did basically a sauna soak. You can, but it's risky to put a crested gecko in just a straight soak like you would like a ball python that's not shedding. So you have to get like warm paper towels and just kind of let them steam. And anyway, we had to do that for about 2 weeks and do some hand feeding, and bounce back. He's doing great now, but for about 2 weeks there, it was scary.
In the wild, what's their habitat? I mean, that
New Caledonia, so islands somewhere. But yeah, they're arboreal. They come to the ground, eat rotten fruit. They eat insects.
And so in the wild, they have a large area that they encompass to eat, but in captivity,
I'm wondering if in the wild they live on like one tree. And at the night, they go down to the bottom of the tree and eat the fallen fruit, or eat the fruit that's in the tree.
Yeah.
And I bet they live their whole life in just this little itty-bitty spot.
That's what some people think. I mean,
that's what
I
mean,
know.
Judging by what you've said, that's all I can
They're
go
not
off of.
smart. I mean, like, at all.
Well, and I've heard that so much.
Yeah.
So much.
I mean, they're very cute, and they're a lot of fun. And when you feed them at night after the lights are off in here and they're all awake, and you go through and you dump crickets and all the enclosures, it just bang, bang, you hear them bouncing off of walls, catching. It's hilarious.
Yeah, they look so cute. They look like a storybook, a child's storybook character.
Yeah, with the little eyelashes. People call them eyelash geckos. Yeah, and they're a lot of fun. I mean, I didn't think I'd like them. I thought I'd be like, these are the dumbest things ever. But they grew on me. I've become a fan.
That's why I haven't gotten them yet,
dude. And it's a problem because like they're so easy to keep. I mean, they are so simple.
See, I did leopard geckos.
Mm-hmm.
So like
leopard
geckos are easy too, but because like you can keep leopard geckos in a rack. You can breed leopard geckos in a rack. But like your guys, like, I don't know, they sound even easier because it's just like you leave them there and you forget them once you get bioactive and all of that.
Yeah, we run through, we give them we use Pangea. We give them the crested gecko diet. It's a powdered diet that you rehydrate. It's fruit. It's got all the calcium, D3, all that stuff in it. It's got bug protein in it, and you give that to them. And then we go through. We actually feed ours more insects than a lot of people do. We feel like the fruit is, no matter where you are in the world, is going to be seasonal, so they have to eat something the rest of the year. And we've noticed that with our babies, we feed a lot of pinhead crickets when they're little, and they eat that way more readily than they eat the Pangea diet. And it seems to help them put on weight and grow faster. So not like power feeding them, but they just seem to grow at a really healthy rate.
That makes sense. I mean, you're giving them a little more protein, and I'm sure they're eating more than just dead fruit in the wild, because that's very seasonal.
But some of them are picky. Some of them aren't. We have a couple that are just trash cans. I mean, you can give them a hornworm, you can give them a soldier fly larva, you can give them a mealworm. They'll just take it down. And the other ones, if it's not a cricket, they don't want anything to do with it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have that. My turtles will just eat anything that moves that they can swallow.
I'm looking forward to the monitor getting there, because right now she's picky. She likes crickets. She'll eat dubia roaches on occasion, but like you offer her a horned worm or a superworm, and she gets offended and goes in her log and turns her back on you.
Oh, man.
I mean, do they have that kind of a personality then?
I might be anthropomorphizing the crap out of this lizard. I don't know. But to me, you offer her a cricket and tongs and she's excited about it. She might not be hungry at the moment. She might ignore it. But the couple times I've tried the hornworm and a couple times I've tried the superworm, she literally turned around and went back in her log. Doesn't do with anything else.
So, okay, I have another question, since you keep scrubs and a monitor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so scrubs are more turned on or more in tune with what's... Yeah. You said you have Halmaheras.
Oh, a Halmahera gecko.
Oh, I'm completely off then. Okay. I'm like, you have Halmahera scrubs?
No, we have Halmahera geckos. I don't know what their other name would be, but they're just like they're like a size down from lychees, but they have the attitude of a tokay. So yeah, they're we call them our satanic trash bags. Yeah.
Yeah,
They're
so
all-
just like scrub pythons.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we have 0 pythons right now. We haven't
just
again.
boas. That's
just
okay.
boas. Yeah.
I should probably change my pythons for boas.
No, I have nothing. I'd love to get into carpet someday. It's just like I had to pick something.
Not those pythons.
Oh, gotcha.
Those ones I want. I don't know. We decided to try to do corns or balls, so we have both of them, and I don't know. She likes the balls because they're bigger, and like the kids can. I mean, they're more size manageable, if that makes sense. They're bigger, so they're easier for a 6-year-old to handle versus a baby corn snake. So
yeah, baby corn
I don't
snakes are
know.
zippy, angry pencils. Yeah.
Something's gonna go eventually, and it may be both, but I don't know.
Well, my dream down the road, I want to get into tree monitors, so that's my big goal.
That would be amazing.
That's expensive.
If you only knew, if I had space, that would be the
That's
thing.
the other problem.
If I only had the space, money's not an issue.
Only had the space.
Right.
If you want to
money
get
will
captive,
be an issue.
If you want to get captive, money will be an issue. If you want to get imports, it's
yeah, I'm with you. And buy captive. Buy captive, 100%. Anyway.
It's been fun.
Pegs, yes, it has. Any other questions, Pegs, before this goes 2.5 hours?
Yeah, if I come up with them, you'll be hearing from me on Instagram. I'll message you the questions.
Sounds good. And we'll have to get Kayla on because y'all can talk. She loves turtles. So
Heck yeah, I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
All right. Well, our wrap-up questions then are: if you could keep anything, extinct, not extinct, size, space requirements don't matter. You have to breed it. You have to be producing it. That's the key. What would it be?
Actual velociraptors.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
I want tiny carnivorous chickens. Jason.
that would be cool.
Yeah. Just flock of them. Could you imagine, like, instead of a chicken coop, it's a velociraptor coop?
No.
Oh, man.
You open the door and you die. Like, it would be.
Take your gun, you're shooting blanks to scare them away as you're grabbing the eggs to make your omelet in the morning.
You have to
Heck
literally
yeah.
put on
That
you have
sounds
to go-
fun.
a suit of armor.
That time is pretty close because they've now bred chickens that have teeth and with
Oh, good.
short
Wonderful.
legs. So you could have a Velociraptor chicken.
I'll take it.
If you had any piece of advice for a new keeper, be it in crested geckos or boas or whatever you want, any piece of advice, what would it be?
I will make it a controversial piece of advice.
Perfect. That's been the whole episode. So
yeah, apparently I like going down that road with y'all.
well, we'll have you back next time some more stuff comes up.
my advice would be, within reason, don't be dissuaded if someone tells you the reptile that you want isn't a beginner animal. If it's something that you do the research for, especially if you can find a breeder and get mentorship and you are capable financially, physically, all those ways, in space, all that, to take care of it, again, within reason. By within reason, I mean your first monitor should never, under any circumstances, be a croc monitor. That's just not smart.
Right.
But if you want, say you've never owned a lizard before, but you want an Aki as your first lizard. You don't want a bearded dragon or a leopard gecko. Well, then don't get the bearded dragon leopard gecko, because what happens is those become abandoned pets. They get neglected. They get dropped off at a rescue because someone told them, well, you have no reptile experience, so you can't have an Aki. You need to go get a bearded dragon. Mm-hmm. So if it's something you want, again, like I said, talk to people in the community, find somebody that's willing to answer your questions and not be a jerk, and do your research. And, like I said, as long as you do the research and you can handle it, and knock yourself out. I mean, why get bogged down with corn snakes, ball pythons, bearded dragons, when what you want is a carpet python? Go get the carpet python. Skip all the other stuff.
Yeah, good.
100%. I've said something very similar numerous times on the show.
Yeah.
Keep what you want. Even if what you want is intermediate or expert level.
Yeah.
do the research before,
Yes.
not get into a croc monitor, not
Right.
having any idea
or
what
a
you're
Borneo
doing.
earless monitor, or
Yeah.
a dragon snake. Yeah, leave those alone.
Yes,
But.
yes, just
Or a king cobra. That's a terrible first
yeah,
reptile.
no, that is right.
Yeah.
Well, hang on. That goes back to something earlier, real quick. Back on Phil Wolf. Have you heard the um Reptile Fight Club with him and Scott Borden?
I
And
did.
oh my goodness.
That was a great episode.
That is, if you are interested in keeping venomous or not,
Listen
it
to
is a person from Florida who follows Florida rules, and Scott, not Borden, Scott Eiper, Scott Eiper from Australia who follows Australia rules, and they have a conversation about the best first venomous snake. And
Yeah, that was a fantastic episode.
Definitely,
it got spicy.
it is heated. It is
Yeah.
great. It makes you think they hate each other at first, but then it warms up into a nice gushy ending. But that's okay. That's what I came there for. Well,
That's why it's called Reptile Fight Club.
right. It was not kumbaya at first, but it became that. Anyway, that's totally worth a listen. My last question is, I don't know if you know of the show Wildcrats.
Like based off the Krat brothers.
Yeah, the Krat Brothers did it from
Yeah.
Zaboomafoo, but they did an animated show.
I haven't seen it. But
Okay.
Krat.
Look that
Okay. They have, yeah, I asked this question.
Keep forgetting to
Anyway, so
I
they
keep
have,
forgetting. He asked
they
this
have,
question.
they have, I just added it. Well, it's been a while now that I've added it, but anyway, if you could have any creature power, i.e. a spider that can climb on walls, or a dolphin that can swim underwater and see in sonic sound, or whatever creature power, what creature power would you have?
Oh, it's no brainer for me. I definitely want like the Spider-Man able to stick to things, because I'm so sick and tired of using 32-foot ladders at work to get on roofs to
Oh
deal with.
man,
Like, if I could never have to get on a ladder again, if I could just climb the side of the house in order to screen off the gable vent to get rid of the bats, like that would be ideal. So yeah,
Nice.
that hands down. I know that's not inventive. I know that's been done in a comic book, but it would solve
It's
a lot
never
of my
been
problems.
done on this show though.
Oh, okay.
So you're
Oh,
good.
good.
Nothing.
It would.
Nothing that you did was done on the show. So
It would-
if it
it would
was,
solve-
I don't know what I'm gonna do. When someone answers with the same thing, I might be like, not original enough. Try again. I don't know. Is that mean?
And what if someone says like, I want my ribs to spread out like a flying snake so I can jump off a roof and glide? Like that would also be creepy but cool.
Yeah. But then you get the second person saying it and you're like, you copied.
Yeah, because that's pretty specific. Yeah, that's
Right.
the
Right.
power that both Jill and I want is the jumper powers. Like, oh, let's go to Paris for lunch. Ding, and then we're there.
there you go.
That's the power.
Nice.
I thought you
But
meant
that's not
jumper
an
powers like
animal
a
power.
Yeah, where you could jump
No.
like 60 miles, you know.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
that'd
then
be
go-
cool. Well, I mean, that'd get you there about the same speed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, Charlie, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank
We
you all so much for having
appreciate
me. It was
it.
a lot of fun.
Yeah. And next time, if we can have like side by side, you and Kayla, that would be really hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We'll just have to get that scheduled. She, like I
That's-
said, she works the 3 to 11 every
Yeah.
Monday through Friday. So that's tough.
And
with
you
y'all's
work the
schedule.
days.
I work the days. We're snoring people in the bed. That's all our interaction is during the week. Like,
And the relationship doesn't get old.
and then the weekends, it's just like, hey, let's build reptile cages. Okay.
That's awesome, though.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. We have a good time.
We
Never
wanted you
boring.
here too, Kayla.
Yes. Yeah. We wanted you to be here too. That's great.
She's here in spirit.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, she's here in chat.
In a text,
so,
yeah, in chat.
Yeah. So where could people find you, Charlie and Kayla?
Instagram, Serenity Dragons. I think it's Serenity_Dragons because someone already took Serenity Dragons. Facebook, Serenity Dragons, and we did start a YouTube channel, but there's not much there.
There's lots of comments on this video there.
Yes. Okay. But yeah, we haven't done much with the YouTube. You and I discussed about it, Matthew. I've been very
Yeah.
intimidated by DaVinci Resolve. It's
You know, I'm still trying to get a podcast out.
Yes, that hasn't happened.
It still hasn't happened yet, has it?
Nice.
I have a travel video filmed, or like pretty much all edited by Nipper Reed. I just need to try and send it through and hope it works. Yeah.
Such a bad feeling.
Yeah, no, it really is. And then I lined
Yeah.
up more people for that travel thing, and like now, yeah. Like, hey, the travel thing's not working out. Please come on the show. No response. Like, I fucked it up,
no.
didn't I? Anyway.
All right. I'm sure you'll get it sorted, man.
Yeah, it'll all work. But anyway, Peggy, you,
Yes.
where do we find you at? How do people contact you?
On Instagram, I am Detmers Studios, all run together. DETMERS Studios. And then on Facebook, let's see it. Peggy Ann Detmers is my art page, and my reptile page is Black Hills Turtle Forum. And yeah, so catch up on my artwork and my turtles there. And yeah, that's where I'm at.
So wait. You're a science hippie and an artist? Wait, how does that?
I don't know if I'd go hippie.
Yeah, I'm not.
You're not really a hippie.
Well, I was in the 60s and early 70s. Yeah, I was a little hippie. And yeah, once I got into science, graduated in wildlife and fisheries and general biology with a micro minor. And but then I always had drawn as a kid, but my dad goes, "You can't make money doing that, so just do that, on the side and get your science degree." And so that's what I did, and started oil painting and pencil drawing and large bronze outdoor monumental sculptures. And,
Very nice.
And so they found out that the art world, could pay more than the science world when you play the monumental bronzes.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm about to start another one of those projects, and that'll be a new tortoise room attached to a new garage.
Awesome.
To do after that project. But yeah, I bought this 3 acres and the 2 log cabins and the barn, because of my art sales. And so yeah, so that's where you see my artwork, mostly all wildlife and equine, and some Native American on horseback hunting buffalo. So yeah,
I wish I was good at something other than being a professional redneck, but like I don't have any of those skills.
Man, the older I get, the more I feel that.
Yeah.
older, yeah, right, older.
Well, hang on, Pegs, hang on. We got a good chunk. Well, me and Charlie are almost the same generation. I would say we pretty much are. But you're up there more.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm not being mean. I love Peggy.
Grade school in the 60s, high school in the 70s, high school and college in the 70s.
And all our high school and college was past 2000 for both of us.
And I feel sorry for you guys, because I went to college when it was affordable. The credit hours were only $12 a credit hour. Now they're what, $270 a credit hour?
Yeah.
No. Try more than that.
Try more than that.
Yeah.
Really?
I'm betting. I think the last time I looked, like one class was $3,000, and this was like 8 or 10 years ago, and that's local at Black Hills State, like a state university.
Yeah.
So like over $3,000 a class, and one class is 3 credit hours. So
yeah, well, that's ridiculous. I mean, I graduated with no student loans. I went through it from 75 through 80 with 2 majors, 1 minor, 5 years, no student loans, and and because I worked in the summer, and I did fight forest fires. That was hazard pay, and so that was quite a deal.
Are you gonna write a book? I gotta have the life of Peggy. Like, I mean, I know we don't have time, but next time I'm on, I gotta. Oh my gosh.
I've had 2 writers wanting to be my ghostwriter over things I will not say.
Oh my goodness, I gotta hear about firefighting. Oh, this is too short. I need more than 2 hours with y'all.
Well, hey, you've got that, but we probably should wrap up for the listener, because they're gonna get cranky by now. Anyway, for me and the podcast, you can reach us at HerpTalk Radio on Instagram. We have a Facebook group where most of the people who've been on the podcast are. And if you have questions as a new person coming in, feel free to ask them there. That is what it's for. So we can connect the new people with people who actually care to help you correctly. And they might not know what they're talking about 100%, but we're all willing to learn in that group. So join that. HerpTalkRadio@gmail.com. Shoot me an email if you're in the South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee, Missouri, Ohio, Illinois, Minnesota, Iowa, Kansas. Oh man, pretty much there's a whole line there. If you're around, shoot me a call.
That turtle to Patrick instead
Yes,
of
and I can bring the other one back for you.
Well, I think
so-
the turtle would get to him quicker if I just shipped it to him.
Well, if you shipped it today. Anyway,
We'll talk.
everyone have a good night.
Y'all have a
We'll
wonderful evening.
night, day, evening, whenever you're listening. We'll see you next time.
Yeah. Thanks, Kayla, for lending us your man for a while.